Storytelling and communication are at the heart of what we as wedding professionals are required to do. It's what turns a moment into a memory. And while a lot of people think that storytelling and communication is a forward facing external act, it is also incredibly important that we as wedding professionals learn how to consistently communicate with one another. Because if there's one thing that I have learned in the last 15 years of owning my business, it's that no one person is solely responsible for an event. This is a collaboration, a team effort, and as we all know, teamwork makes the dream work. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. My name is Andrea Eppolito, and we are going to talk about storytelling and communication and how it allows us to do our best work for our couples. Now, the first part of this is storytelling. People don't buy services, they don't buy stuff. What they buy is how the stuff makes them feel. And a story is the best way to communicate that. It's not about checklists or any generalized Instagram post. It's about telling a story that really resonates with your ideal client, a story that they can remember, that becomes part of the emotional experience. And the best way that I have found to do this is by using the Story Brand framework. And that's a book that you can go out and get. In it, we discuss the fact that number one, there is a hero in your story, and that hero is not you, it's your client. And so every part of the story that we are telling keeps the hero front and center. It's all about your client. Now, yes, that may be a couple, but it also could be the internal clients that you are working with, your partners, your vendors, and the rest of the team. The second start of building a story is to understand that in every story, the hero is going to encounter a problem. Now, maybe it is the chaos and uncertainty that comes with wedding planning. Perhaps it's wanting to make sure that they really hear the soundtrack of their family's story, or they want to make sure that something is documented in a certain way. And so when you are framing out your marketing and the way that you're going to communicate, you really want to make sure that you are telling a story where the hero comes to quickly understand that they have an issue and a problem that needs to be solved. And this is where now you come in. In the story, you are going to position yourself as the guide. You're going to come in to the chaos, be able to clear it out, and help take your hero and your client through a process and a series of steps that are going to lead them to the best possible outcome. So when you're framing your story, you want to make sure that you explain something like, I understand how scary it can be to trust someone with documenting your most special day. These photos are going to live on for eternity. Your children, your grandchildren, your parents, these are going to be the benchmark and the tangible item that you have. And I understand that you could be worried about having someone miss shots, maybe not getting that great photo of your grandmother or of a trusted family member. And there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with giving a stranger a camera and asking them to document your most special day. That's where I come in. That's where me and my team are going to make this process easy for you. And by the time we're done with this call, I know that you're going to be able to trust us with documenting everything that you need because we see the world the way that you see it. Once you've established the hero, the problem, and yourself as the guide, now you are going to walk them through the very specific steps that you are going to take in order to make sure that you have a fantastic resolution. So you may, if you're a florist, be talking about things like flower selection, tonality, the way that flowers smell, the way that the different textures work together, how some blooms will give them a bigger coverage, and how while others may have a very specific meaning. If you're a caterer, you can be talking about dishes that the family loved that you're going to be able to recreate, or perhaps the timing of service. But at this point in the story, you really want to show your expertise and let them know exactly what you are going to do to take them through this process. And then once you've secured their business and once you are definitely the one that they know and trust, you are going to fulfill that promise. And at the end, you're going to wrap up the communication by reminding them of where they were, the process and the experience that you had, and the successful outcome of their event. Now, this is very important when you're doing it with your couple, with the end user, but it is equally important when you are working with and communicating with the rest of the team. No one reaches success in this industry completely by themselves. There must be collaboration and communication. And because I like consistency, I always suggest that you frame your storytelling internally the same way that you frame it externally. And so, if you are going to be communicating with your other team members before you start the wedding, and I highly, highly suggest that you do and believe that you should, it is a very similar process, but there are some additional steps that you are going to take. So let's talk about communicating internally behind the scenes. Now, our couple is never hiring one person. They are hiring and building out a team, even if they don't realize it. The way that the photographer works with the videographer is so important to make sure that nobody is stepping into anyone else's shot. The way that the lighting team is highlighting or hiding different areas of the venue. The fact that the DJ needs to communicate with the planner to make sure that no cues are missed and that everybody's name is pronounced properly. These are the things that make a wedding feel beautiful and stress free and effortless for the couple. And it is very much our responsibility to be having those conversations with one another before we ever begin the load in. Now, I personally believe that it is the planner's responsibility to take charge of all of the communication before it happens. But not every planner is going to put together a process or a way for everyone to communicate. I personally send out my timeline about 30 to 45 days in advance. The first page of my timeline has a link to a questionnaire, and it goes out to every partner that we have. The questionnaire asks people, give me your name, give me your cell phone number, give me your Instagram handle so that we can all make sure that we're in touch properly. Then it goes through and it asks very specific questions about how they see their role, what it is that they plan to do, whether or not they've reviewed the timeline, and where they feel there may be friction, where they feel they may need extra time or additional power or additional lighting. And then I review all of these answers and I put together and kind of oversee communication between teams that really do need to work together. So, for example, once I see this, I say, okay, floral and rental and lighting need to have a conversation about who's loading in, what part of the room they're in, what time they're coming, because it makes no sense for a rental company to drop tables if the carpeting isn't down. I don't want the lighting company being running through the room on a lift if the tables aren't fully set because they're going to misplace the lighting. The venue needs to know when to expect everyone. And so I actually create little email threads, phone calls, video chats to make sure that everyone is communicating in advance. We should all know what the other person is doing. We should all understand what our partners, what our collaborators, what our team members need in order to do their best work. Again, I truly believe that this is the wedding planner's responsibility. But if you're working with a planner and they don't do this, there is nothing that prevents you as a creative, as a business owner, and as a professional from taking up that mantle and initiating those conversations on your own. So once you see who's working on the wedding, or when you ask who's the videographer, who's the planner, who's the DJ, you can go out and you can initiate those conversations by yourself. Now, the first thing I think that you should do is explain who you are, the company you work for, and what your process is. What do you need in order to do your best work? Do you require breaks for the band? Do you require a certain amount of power for a DJ? Does the venue need to know that you've got insurance? Whatever these conversations are, you need to take ownership of that process, because leaders go first. And what you're really doing is giving your team members an opportunity in advance to get to know you and to build trust. And so you simply say, "Hi, my name is Nikki, and I work for this Flowers by Edgar team, and this is my responsibility during the wedding. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is how I'm going to be doing it. I understand that my work may impact yours. And so I just wanted to have a conversation in advance and understand what is it that you need from me? How can I make sure that I don't create any issues? And is there any space on this wedding where we can partner together to really make sure that we are over delivering for each other, for our planner, and for our couple?" Having conversations, having emails, being in a text thread in advance is going to make sure that when you get on site, you are one team moving in unison, because the other professionals, the other members of the team, the planner, the venue, and certainly not the client, they should never see friction happening. Anything that is being pushed or pulled behind the scenes should be worked out early. Now, that doesn't mean that there's never going to be an issue on site. In fact, something goes wrong at every single wedding. It always does. Our job is to make sure that we identify the potential for those problems before we get there, that we formulate a plan so that when something happens, we all know that we can step in and assist each other, and that when the unknown comes up, the black swan that nobody saw coming, that we can pull together, because there is a foundation of there's a foundation of respect, and there's a foundation of professionalism that will allow for everyone to stop, huddle for 5 minutes, and come up with a solution. Now, I know that this is difficult on site, because the minute something goes wrong, especially when you're under pressure to produce, to get the doors open, or to have something happen because you're on a deadline and a timeline for your clients, it's very easy for emotions to get the best of you. It's very easy to turn around and start saying, "I just have to focus, laser focus on what I'm doing. I just have to take responsibility for my stuff." That is when chaos ensues. I know it feels hard, and I know that it's difficult, but if you can just take 5 minutes, pull everyone together, identify the hero, which is your client and your team, identify the problem, which is the chaos that is happening, and then come up with a solution where everyone plays a part. Everyone is able to walk the path together. It will stop you from tripping over each other. It will stop you from turning a tiny little piece of friction into a big mistake that snowballs. And once you move through it, and you will always move through it, you will come out on the other time, and you will look at one another and truly know that your relationship has been forged in fire. Now, communication doesn't end when the event ends. I think that it's a beautiful thing for us to continue to communicate with one another behind the scenes. I am a huge fan of sending a very, very big, very long, very detailed thank you note to everyone who works on my events. But I also think it's beautiful when partners do that with one another. If you were a videographer and you had a battery issue, and a photographer gave you a battery because you're both using Nikons, send them a written note. If you're a venue and you really appreciated the fact that your floral and rental team took all of their trash and gave you the space back just as good, if not better, then you found it, reach out and let them know how important that was. I'm a huge believer that we praise in public, and so I will actually put every single partnering company on my thank you emails, because maybe the videographer didn't see how closely the DJ worked with the venue to make sure that everything was timed correctly so that they could get the shots. Maybe the planner didn't necessarily see the DJ and the lighting company talking, or the way that the floral and the rental company got together to make sure that all of the chargers were perfectly placed. Anytime that I can identify beautiful collaboration and a great amount of teamwork, not only do I want to recognize it, but I want to make sure that everybody on the team knows that these partners are people that you should know, that you should trust, and that you can, in fact, refer in the future. A planner is not the only way that you can get referrals. I have seen all different groups and all different verticals refer one another, and that's how you build a beautiful business. That is how you elevate the industry as a whole from where it is to where it could be. And lastly, if there is a problem, I do not think that that should be made public. I believe that we praise in public and that we coach in private. And so if there is an issue, if there's a mistake, if something is broken, if someone steps in a shot, this is not up for public consumption and debate. I do believe that it needs to be addressed pretty much immediately after the wedding is over. But I think that those are one-on-one phone calls. And I really like a phone call because an email or a text message, the nuance of the conversation, the tone is very often lost. And so if you encountered an issue with somebody on site, make sure that you pick up the phone, you schedule a call, and you have a conversation that is not necessarily accusatory, but that you frame it as, we did such beautiful work. It's so unfortunate that this happened. I want to figure out how it happened, why it happened, how we can avoid it happening again, and whether or not this is something that we can work through. I can tell you that when I'm selecting vendors and I am building teams for my couples, there are groups that I know simply don't work well together. And so if the DJ is really the priority, but I know that he doesn't work as well with one lighting team over another, I'm not going to build a team where friction exists. I'm really looking to create the best possible environment for everyone. And it's important that you as a creative, that you as a business owner understand, I work really well with these people. I don't work really well with these people. And that when mistakes happen, and they happen to all of us, I make mistakes, you make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. It's not so much about the mistake. It's about how we worked through the chaos, what solution we found, and whether or not we respected each other on the other side. This is why I believe that storytelling and communication is so incredibly important, not only externally, how we present to our ideal clients, how we present on Instagram, how we present on our websites, but also why it is so important that we take that basic foundation and apply it to the way that we speak to one another. Because, like I said, over the last 15 years, the one thing I know to be true above all else is that no one person is responsible for the success of a wedding or an event. It is about us coming together, pooling our collective talents, seeing one vision, and working through the chaos to over deliver for the people who matter most, and that is our couple. I hope this was helpful to you. I wish you tremendous success. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I am at Andrea Eppolito on Instagram. We will talk again soon.